Tonight, you'll flick a switch, lock a door, and fall asleep without a single thought about staying alive. For 300,000 years, almost the entire human story, no human could do that. When the sun went down on your ancestors, the world didn't just get dark. It got dangerous. No lights, no locks, just them, a fire, and whatever was moving out beyond it. After sunset, a human being was no longer the most dangerous thing in the world, and a part of you still remembers that. It's why, even now, the dark can quicken your heartbeat for no reason at all. So how did they survive it? Every night for 1,000 centuries. Let me show you what really happened after the sun went down. It starts with something you have probably never truly experienced. Real darkness. When the sun drops below the hills, the world doesn't dim. It disappears. The trees, the path, the faces around you, all of it swallowed whole. And with the light goes the warmth. The temperature falls fast. The animals that slept through the heat of the day begin to wake, and many of them are hunting. Because here is the truth we forget. For most of our history, a human alone in the dark was not the top of the food chain. We have weak eyes at night, no claws, no fur. By every measure that matters after sunset, we were prey. So when the night came, our ancestors did the one thing that kept them alive. They drew together, and they lit a fire. Fire is the reason you exist. We almost never think of it as technology. But it was the first, and maybe the greatest, one we ever had. And a fire did 3 things at once, each of them changing us forever. First, it pushed back the dark. The predators that ruled the night learned to fear that flickering circle of light, and inside it, for the first time, humans were safe enough to close their eyes. Second, it gave us warmth. It let us survive nights and winters our bare bodies never could, and follow the world into cold places we were never built for. And third, this is the one everyone forgets. Fire gave us the evening. Think about it. Before fire, when the sun went down, the day was simply over. Fire stole hours back from the night. It created a block of time that had never existed before. Not for hunting, not for working, just for being together. And around that fire, people did something no animal had ever done. They sat, they talked, they stared into the flames for hours. The campfire was the original screen, and we have been gathering around a glowing light in the dark ever since. And then, eventually, they slept. But here is where it gets strange, because for most of history, humans almost certainly did not sleep the way you do. You think of sleep as one solid block. You go down, you stay down for 8 hours, you get up. But that idea is surprisingly new. Right up until we lit our nights with electric light, people across the world slept in 2 shifts. They would fall asleep not long after dark, what old writers called the first sleep. Then, somewhere in the dead of night, they would wake, not by accident, not lying there frustrated, naturally for an hour, maybe 2, and they used it. They would tend the fire, talk quietly with whoever else was up, make love, pray, check on the children, or just sit alone with their own thoughts in the dark. Then they would sink back down into the second sleep until dawn. Historians found this written into old diaries, court records, even medical books. First sleep and second sleep, described as the most ordinary thing in the world. Then bright light flooded our evenings, squeezed sleep into one rigid block, and we forgot it had ever been any other way. That quiet hour, awake in the dead of night, alone with your mind, that was never a disorder. It may simply be how humans were built to rest, but here's the part that might be the most important of all. They were almost never asleep at the same time. Think about it. If an entire group lies down and loses consciousness in the dark, surrounded by things that hunt, someone has to be awake. And it turns out, someone always was. When scientists studied one of the last hunting and gathering groups left on Earth, they found something remarkable. Across an entire night, there was almost never a single moment when every person was asleep. The young stayed up late. The old woke before dawn. The light sleepers stirred in between. Nobody was assigned the job. Their own bodies, spread across every age, kept a watch running all night long, without a single person deciding to. They call it the sentinel hypothesis, and it means the grandparents we treat as frail may have been the night guards that kept our entire species alive. And there is one last gift that the fire and the darkness gave us, maybe the most human one of all. Researchers tried something clever. They recorded what people actually talked about by day and compared it to what they talked about by night. In the daylight, the talk was practical. Work, food, who did what, complaints, gossip. But after dark, around the fire, the conversation changed completely. By firelight, people told stories. They spoke of people who weren't there, of ancestors and spirits, of distant lands and things that had never happened at all. The night was when imagination was set loose, when a group of humans staring into a fire learned to travel, together, to places that did not exist. Myth, religion, the first ideas of a world beyond the world. So much of it was dreamed up in the dark. Daylight kept us alive. But the night may be where we became us. So we finally did it. We beat the dark. We flooded our nights with so much light that the stars themselves disappeared. And now we are safer, after sunset, than any human who has ever lived. And yet, here we are, lying in all that safety, faces lit blue by a screen, somehow more awake and more alone than our ancestors ever were around their fire. They were terrified of the night and never once faced it alone. We have nothing left to fear in it, and we face it by ourselves. So maybe the darkness was never really the enemy. Maybe it was the only thing that ever forced us to sit close, look at each other, and stay. Their day, we already followed. Now you've seen their night. Subscribe, and we'll keep digging up the parts of being human we left behind in the dark.